Hi guys. This is us, Twice Roll Tales. It has been about a year since we launched our company, and we thought it was time to give you guys an update about what we've been doing, how's it been going, and generally where we are now. We're just going to ask each other a bunch of questions and have a fun little conversation about this wild and wacky journey that we have been on for the past year. But first, if you don't know who we are, we're going to introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Winnie. I am the creative producer, and a lot of the time I am the GM or the DM, whatever we may be doing. I like to design a lot of the maps, and we have also just finished up a Kickstarter on a book that I wrote, and everyone else collaborated so much on that it is kind of incredible. It is so wonderful it has happened. Yeah. Emily, who are you?
Hi, I'm Emily. I am the business managing producer. That's my title. That's right.
You can go again.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I'm Emily. I'm the managing producer for Twice Roll Tales. So in my role, I take care of kind of the business end of things. I also are social media manager, and I've just started GMing some games as well. You can usually find me as a player, but if not, I'm behind the scenes making cute little shorts stuff. It's a lot of fun. Phoebe, who are you?
Well, hi, I'm Phoebe, as Emily has just told you. I'm the technical producer for Twice Rolled Tales, which means I generally manage the equipment and set up for filming. I also do a large chunk of the editing that happens in post-production. And I'm very often a player as well.
So is Emily. Emily has often been a player.
And stay tuned for Emily's DM debut coming soon.
Probably after this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not long after this, but
not long
very
after
soon,
this.
actually.
Exactly. Soon.
Exactly. Yes, time. That's how that works.
It's linear.
Is it?
Yeah.
You sure?
I mean, as far as human beings are concerned.
Okay, sometimes I wonder. All right. Awesome. So that's us. And I think the next question is, what is Twice Rolled Tales? The company and YouTube channel and or shirt thing that you were watching right now.
Shirt thing?
Short thing.
Oh, I totally heard shirt too.
Yep.
We do have shirts. They're on our website.
Yeah, it's like there was a second there where I was like, they could actually be talking about shirts.
We do have cool shirts. Yes, so Twice Rolled Tales is an actual play company based in New York City. We do actual play filmed, but then also have been focusing on publishing. So kind of focus on home brewing as well as creating our own games based on games you know and love. Yeah.
Kind of at the core of the games that we run and the games that we publish is genre and system mashup. So a lot of the stuff that you'll see us do has like an established system and then putting it with a really unexpected genre. And that's been true since we started, really. Like, what happens if we put Eldritch Horrors in 1993 Bermuda? What happens if the Fae infiltrate the Chicago World's Fair in 1893? We focus really on stories that we're not seeing being told, and a lot of times in systems that aren't getting as much love out in the larger TTRPG space.
And on top of that, we're trying our best to make a lot of those games playable for the viewer as well. As Linny mentioned, we've got a book that's coming out soon.
Tabletop Gone Mad. We actually said the title until now.
Yep. Tabletop Gone Mad, which we've also done a lot of our actual plays for, as well as a few different live shows that we've been lucky enough to get space for and record and are also on our channel. And it's what I like about what we've been able to do is that we get a really fun combination of kind of very character-driven cerebral drama and then the silliest nonsense you've ever seen.
Truly, sometimes in the same session. Often in the same session. Mostly in the same.
Sometimes in the same minute.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly accurate summary. I can't think of anything to add. Yeah, okay, cool. So, what has the last year been like? Favorite parts? Biggest challenges?
The last year has been a lot. Biggest challenges look, we started last year with a budget of basically nothing and little to no pre-existing resources. So from the technical side, everything in those first few months was a challenge. You go back and see like some of the first stuff we dropped, and you're like, wow, they were having a rough time of it.
Tech-wise, story-wise,
Oh, no,
immaculate.
story-wise,
No notes. We
stunning.
did great.
Yeah.
We haven't improved at all. Not a bit.
So that was definitely one of the biggest challenges I think early on, was figuring out how on that shoestring non-existent budget we could put together a setup that had worked, because my experience in filming was very much, I had only ever worked in sort of two different scenarios. The one being having like a full suite of extremely high-tech like feature film quality equipment, or a 1990s camcorder that recorded onto cassette. So finding out, there was a real learning curve in finding out how to make sort of a middle ground setup between those two worlds work in the space that we had, suiting the needs that we had for the product we wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I think it's something we've come up with some pretty creative solutions over the last year for.
I was going to say, I think we definitely challenged you for the first 6 months, because we have a very particular space, and we were very particular that we didn't want any cameras showing any of these things.
Yep.
So
there were many, many needs explained to me that I had to make work, and damn it, I found ways.
She did.
Yeah,
she did.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, I think like in the broader sense though, like the year has been truly like a year of so much learning for all of us. Like looking back where we were a year ago, like when we made kind of the same roundtable thing, we had just filmed like 2 campaigns. That was it. Like we had really not even put anything out yet. And since then we have learned so much about like what it takes to make a really great tabletop session and what it takes to make really good games. And I think like the people that we've met, the experiences we've been able to have been just so rewarding every step of the way, that like even while we're like learning and growing through the hard things and the growing pains, like the people have made it so worth it. And just being able to become part of like the New York City TTRPG community and the larger like TTRPG community as a whole has been absolutely incredible. Like I look back and we've done, I think 7 full campaigns to date, including like multiple one shots, 4 live shows in Rochester as part of the Rochester Fringe Festival. We've been to conventions. We have hosted meetups all over the city for like other creators. We've been keeping busy. And I look back at that and I'm just always amazed at like how far we've been able to come in just such a short time.
Yeah. I mean, absolute shout out to the people. I mean, we've been working hard, but I don't think we could have done this without just the network of wonderful, supportive. I mean, shout out to these guys, my friend's basement, you know? It's just been an incredible blessing to get to do this thing and get to do it alongside people who are so excited about it. Just that energy kind of feeds. It's great.
Favorite part of the year?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Favorite part.
Gotta be PAX. Somehow we thought we weren't gonna go to PAX. and we ended up going, like, buying tickets, I think, like 3 days beforehand. Best decision I think we could have made.
Yeah. This is PAX Unplugged in Pittsburgh.
Philly. Definitely Philly.
Sure. The same thing.
I'm from Western PA. That is Philly.
Linny's not dyslexic.
No.
This is not dyslexia. This is geography, my friend.
Well, you know, they get their words mixed up.
Yeah, that too.
They both start with P and they exist in the same state. That makes them the same city.
No!
Same city.
Yinzers get in the comments. Yikes.
Yinzers?
That's the Pittsburghers. Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's
There's
rough,
a difference.
guys.
Like Western
that's
PA,
rough.
you say yins when you're talking to like a group of people, like y'all, it's yins. And Eastern PA is yous. So like yous guys is the y'all there.
So use makes sense.
So they're the users?
Quite possibly. I'm not super into the Philly culture, but yeah, Pittsburghers will come after you for confusing them with Philly.
So PAX Unplugged.
This has been the Pennsylvania side.
We had a great time there. Got to meet a lot of cool new people and also hang out with people we already knew from the New York scene that we had not actually gotten to hang out with that much. And it was just an unexpectedly great community building moment.
Yeah. I PAX was fantastic for a lot of reasons. But I think some of my favorite moments have definitely been like either at the table or like being like on tech while amazing things are happening at the table. Like I look back at like running tech for Rogues and Romances episodes 5 and 6 and just listening to episode 6 behind the curtain and being like, oh my gosh, this might be the best like session of TTRPG like I've ever like really witnessed. It's just everything tied up so well. Everyone's characters were just doing their things, and yeah, just so many knots came untied, and it was really, really well done by everybody.
I feel like a lot of people tied the knot.
Hey,
I was gonna say I think my favorite might be episode 6 of Rogues and Romances as well, just because I think it was. I mean, in addition to being an incredible story with just the best characters and players, it really felt like everything I had learned in that past year, all of it had sort of come together and come in force. And so it's like, I nailed it. You know, just that feeling when you're like, nailed it. And we came in 10 minutes under time, too.
Unheard of.
People have places to be, trains to catch.
We got the story out, and it was fantastic. No, just, and we picked a particularly, I think that setting a romance, like an Austen murder mystery is like very, like Regency murder makes a lot of sense. But I think the commitment we had to making it Austen, the romance, and the murder mystery, and then feeling like we nailed both of those, that was really satisfying. I mean, we know that the happiest moment of my life still was the Punderworld DM screen moment. But that's just me, and I don't think really speaks to the broader community we have built here at this company.
And was also occurring under active fever.
Yeah.
You know. Sure. It's all just kind of a haze of joy and puns.
A fever dream, if you will.
Okay. I think we've kind of gotten over this, but how has Twice Rolled Tales evolved in the past year?
I mean, okay, you're both looking at me. Just from a tech perspective, like compare one of the first things we ever put up to one of the more recent things, and it's night and day. The increases we've been able to make thanks to sort of the resources and successes we've had over the past year in video and audio quality were really, really gratifying to see happen, and to now sort of finally be getting into the fully updated tech setup. I have a sound mixing board now. It's my favorite thing in the world. It's so beautiful. It's got the dials that go up and down. I love it so much.
They're even rainbow colored.
They are.
The sound is so good, guys. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's just been a gradual increase in just confidence and quality and just feeling like we can broaden our horizons in story and bringing new people in and feeling like we can start to move beyond just what we've been doing, the three of us at tables. Yeah, like I it's more like at this point, I think we've started to see the growth we can do this year too, which is exciting.
Yeah. We're getting more and more ambitious with every campaign, and that is so cool to see. Like the one that you are running right now that we won't spoil for anybody because it won't be even trailered by the time this is out, is maybe like, I didn't know that TTRPGs could do what you're doing. And that's incredibly cool, and cool to like see you grow as a GM, cool to see like Phoebe grow as a player, and like see all of the people that we've worked with maybe once or twice start to like come in and really dive headfirst into characters, and yeah, just discovering new facets about this thing and about this art form every chance that we get.
Yeah. All right. What sets Twice Rolled Tales apart? What's something you think we do really well?
I mean, just to shout out the engineering and the production level here. The maps that I have seen Linny put together for some of these campaigns, I hope it comes through in the viewing process, because being at the table and seeing some of those maps come out, it pulls you into the story so much more. And like the Twilight Archives map being a literal like interactive book where the pages would come up and pieces of it would light up, and next level.
I think too, just like, yeah, absolutely, like production quality, all of like the love and time and the care that you put into like making the environment for your players also comes through like in the narratives themselves too. Like, we don't do the whole here's a monster, go fight it type of game. Like, we have generally plots that are much more cerebral, much more like, not to diss on those because those are great in their own ways, but that is not what we do. We have ones that challenge players to like dive into their psyches and confront like some really tough things in their characters' lives. It's just, you don't see a lot of TTRPGs that do that super often, and I feel like that's been a cornerstone of what we do.
And I also think we strive for I think we strive for accessibility in the sense of doing stuff, not that it is easy to create the maps that I've created, but for example, it's like all of that stuff is created using hand tools at home, basic craft supplies. So like it might take you a while, but I think anyone with sufficient time and motivation could replicate what we were doing if they wanted to run it. And I'm excited to see us continue the work we've already done in releasing modules and sort of explaining our homebrew process, because I really think that we do a good job of showing how you can take an existing system you already played in and tell a story that's in a completely different direction, but still uses the things you love about that system and the stories you've already been telling.
Yeah. Amazing.
Okay. Okay, last one from me. So I think we've talked about a little bit that we do publishing and then we also do actual play. So in your guys' mind, how are those things working together here at Twice Rolled Tales?
I guess it goes back to like what sets us apart. Like, I don't know any other studio that is actively publishing games at the same time they're having a full slate of actual play happening at the same time. And like, coming from a writing background, it's been so cool to think about how to translate the experiences that we are having at the table into games that other people can play. Especially like as I've started like running my own things, like thinking about things from a game design perspective and thinking about how others might also find this material and play it themselves is really interesting. It's a really unique interplay, I think, that we have between like these very unique experiences in actual play and the unique experiences that we can then create in the publishing space. I'm excited this year to like get back to some of our projects. We were very ambitious last year and thought we were going to be able to release modules at the same time as AP. Turns out modules take longer to write, but it makes them better.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of strong first drafts of things, and it has been that getting it from draft to publication where we have not had as much time as we thought, which, learning curve.
Well, also publishing 2 standalone games at the same time.
It's fine.
From the business end as well, I sometimes think about the actual plays that we put out, at least for the games that we that we have modules we're working on for, as like sort of the advertising for the modules of like a feature-long trailer for, you want to play this game? You can.
Yeah.
Soon, one day.
Yeah, I feel like there are so many awesome games put out, especially indie games, and they don't always have actual plays attached to them. And so I think it is a big strength that, like, especially the first full-length book we have out, there are a bunch of actual plays in very different situations with different people, with new players, with old players, people who played a lot of TTRPGs, people who this is their first time playing anything. So I think the strength of like, really showcasing that what we're putting out can be played and how to play it, and having that all be within one contained ecosystem.
Yeah. And I do think one of the best ways to learn how to play different TTRPGs is to watch actual plays of them. Like, people say all the time, if you've seen a season of Dimension 20, you know how to play D&D.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also an interesting, like, because we do actual plays for the most part first before we do modules, like we are actively capturing our play tests. We're seeing in real time the things that work, the things that don't work as well, and kind of making those notes so that when the module comes out, like it is its best final form too. And I think it's very unique that people can see us actively trying stuff, where usually a lot of game development kind of happens behind a curtain.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I'm out of questions.
Yeah.
All right.
your turn.
It's me.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, we started kind of talking about like some of the campaigns that we've been doing over the past couple years, or past months, I suppose. We've been doing this for a year. But yeah, they kind of range all over the gamut. Do we have a way to decide like what kind of adventures we do?
I feel like there's a bunch of different ways. Sometimes it's we really want to try a system, and so that was the case of Goblin Errands for sure. And I think upcoming. Oh, can we say upcoming things? Can we say what Emily's upcoming Rat Heist thing was?
Yeah, it's filmed. It's
Okay,
in the
great.
issue.
I'm assuming if we can't, we would have cut that bit out. So yes. Yeah. So I think with Rat Heist, that felt like you'd started with this, like where you start liking the system, and then it's where do we go from there? And sometimes it can diverge quite far. And then I think other times it's you have like the seed of at least for me, I think either the seed of an idea, or I usually just have like a really cinematic moment that's not attached to anything. And I'm like, okay, what are seeds that could lead to this moment? And then often we never get to that cinematic moment, but just like having that in my head branches off enough that we have an idea from there.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started, I think we had like a big document of just different campaign ideas. And we're honestly still just kind of like going down the list of all, and sometimes you learn about a new system and you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. And then it gives you an idea, and so that idea goes on the list. And
yeah,
one day we'll maybe we'll run the list will be over.
We keep adding to
we
the
keep
list.
adding to it. So like
it will never end.
No, we will die before that list ends. Yeah, I feel like we didn't really answer the question, more so to just say that we're all writers and creators, and so I think we sit in a sea of ideas, and sometimes you get those ideas and you're like, that's a TTRPG, or I can't tell this story without other people's input because I don't have enough of an idea of what this is, but I know if I give it to someone else's hands, it will be great. And I think that's like the perfect thing for a TTRPG, is where you have part of a story, but no, there's a great story in there.
And that's kind of the beauty of the indie TTRPG space too. Like there are so many systems, and there are new systems kind of coming out every day, that like the ways that you can use them as tools to like find a broader story is pretty much unlimited. And that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, if someone out there is watching this and you're like, ooh, this retrospective is a little strange, but it's great. Where should they go to get to know our stuff? What should they watch first out of the 88 videos on YouTube we currently have published?
I mean, okay, this is really going to depend. I've immediately gone into what TV show should I watch mode. This is really going to depend on what you are most interested in seeing. Because if you are someone who prefers your actual plays to be very comedic and silly, watch any TGM, watch any Tabletop Gone Mad. They're always unhinged and nonsensical, like always a fun time.
Definitely Rat Heist, I think, is also unhinged.
Oh yeah.
It's coming out soon.
But if you've heard kind of what we've been saying about character and the more sort of production focused work that we do, Rosy Romances. It's got to be Rosy Romances. If you're willing to put in the time to sit down and watch like 12 hours of actual play, that's the one to do it with, because everything just came together in such a satisfying way.
Yeah.
I feel like it really showcased everyone's abilities in a pretty amazing way.
And I think if you're willing to, perhaps overlook some early technical learning things in the manner of curses, it's an incredible actual play that is really, really dark. I think it is pretty horrifying, and I think it's one of those. I think you don't see a lot of player versus player, like true player versus player actual plays, and this was as player versus player as you get. I think.
I'm going to be jumping around to the next question with this a bit, but that like In the Manor of Curses is my personal favorite, definitely. If the tech on it were a little bit better, I would be telling everyone to watch it all of the time, because
I still do. It's charming.
It's not charming. You chopped. I'm not going to spoil it, but
No, the tech is charming. I'm definitely not.
I was like, no one was charming, really.
Oh, you mean the game? Yeah, no. Definitely not charming content. Lots of trigger warnings before you start In the Manor of Curses, but I think player versus player is something that, especially in the TTRPG space, has always been very volatile. And I feel like a lot of players and a lot of DMs are wary of using it for good reason, because not everybody is a safe person to do that with. But when it works, oh my God, it's so satisfying.
It was fantastic. I mean, we did a lot of, if this isn't fun, we'll bail. If you guys aren't having a good time, we will stop.
And I had the most fun I've had at the table ever. That campaign. I was in it.
It turns out if you approach a bunch of players with the pitch, hey, so what if your player was cursed, like deeply badly cursed, and they were willing to do any desperate act to get rid of that curse? And you find players who are like, I would do that desperate act. And you find 4 of them, they all have a really good time. So
yeah,
that one was good.
Oh, it's so good.
What was your favorite actual play, Emily?
Ooh, I do have a really soft spot for curses. That one, I just remember afterwards when everything was done, we had just wrapped, just kind of looking around the table and being like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting it to go how it did. And I was just so in awe of everything everyone brought to the table that it was just, yeah, that was incredibly cool. Because we filmed that one, I want to say in May last year. Yeah. It was the 4th thing we filmed, which is nuts. But that was the one that I felt like when we were finished with it, it's like, we are doing something no one else is doing here. And that was very cool. So, yeah, that one I think is definitely a soft spot for me. I think favorite to watch is probably Goblin Errands.
Yeah.
It's just so silly and sweet. And it was great having Jasmine, who's one of our dear friends and often a player at the table, serve as our tall person. So we were actually all able to play as goblins together, which doesn't actually happen that often.
I think that's the one I'm most proud of from a tech perspective. I got to do a lot of fun things in post that I don't usually get to do. It was very exciting for me.
Yeah. Kind of related to that.
Oh, do I get to go?
Oh, sorry.
Do I get to say it briefly? Okay, this is my shout out to Punderworld, and then I'll stop talking about it. I did have 101 degree fever throughout most of it. Sort of like started out okay and then became sick, definitely by the end of those 3 hours. I loved just making puns. The entire mechanic's puns. That's it. There's really no mechanics. You just make puns and then that happens. So I loved that. But I think also shout out to Twilight Archives. I think is like, that was my first big, that we have filmed on the channel, I think, big stab at like a map that was 2D or 3D in some way. And I did that and I was like, okay, we can keep working on this. It's like the map of the one we're working on right now. Like that is the direct descendant of that idea working. And so that was good. All right.
Twilight Archives is incredible. Watch it literally just for the tome. Like everything else is great, but watch it for the tome.
The tome.
Oh my God, it's incredible. What was your best story moment of last year? Favorite story moment?
I mean, I know we've already talked a bit about episode 6 of Rogues Romances, but Elliot's confrontation with the murderer at the end of that whole plot was chef's kiss.
Yeah, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Without spoiling too much, they went in with like a silly goose plot, and I was like, no.
We were trying to do like a Scooby-Doo unveiling, and this was like against like a Sherlock Holmes villain. And it went so poorly.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think, because most of the time my instinct is always like, yes, let's do whatever. And I was like, the world does not, it doesn't work.
It made so much sense. The second we were like, oh, yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then they pivoted, and it was beautiful.
Story moment?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I think that that was great. Yeah, it's so hard for me to think of story stuff because a lot of it is like, what did I plan versus what happened?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this question, guys. Emily, you talk for a second.
I was trying to deflect while I thought of mine. That's fine. I think my favorite, there's a lot of favorites. Serious one, I think Beth's conversation with Turnscrew in the picnic scene in Manor of Curses. There was just something about that is like, it will get under your skin, but it was so cool because I think Turnscrew is literally the only NPC in that whole game.
The house.
Yeah, the house too. But like the only only NPC that talks. And after having like an hour of us pretty much at each other's throats, this very unsettling conversation where you finally realize what is at stake for this character was just chef's kiss. Incredible. Silly one, trying to write a check at a bank when you're a goblin.
Oh, God.
I made headshots.
You made headshots. I changed my mind. That's my favorite. My favorite is anything Nicholas Cobbleblossom ever did.
Yeah.
Such an adorable character.
Goblins don't have identification, but when you're a little actor goblin, you make headshots and you put your name and your address on the back and it serves the same purpose.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think Silly would have to have been every time Elliot, who played Bones in Rogues and Romances, would bring a new animal to the ball, and I didn't know what animal it was going to be until it arrived, and then I had to deal with whatever animal showed up at the ball. So I think that was my favorite just thing that was tossed at me, that was funny. I laughed, I think, so hard at some of those moments. I think Curses had a lot of just really intense character reflection moments, which were just kind of a joy to sit back and watch, because I think Curses was one that I wasn't that actively involved in terms of like many of those moments. I sort of just set up what was happening and then let it unspool. And I think, I think I also did like sort of the confrontations between several characters in Rogue and Romances, like Leighton and his sister, or Beatrice and
Sally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are good.
Amazing. We've talked a little bit about all of our tech improvements over the past year. There's certainly quite a difference between where we started and where we are now. So curious mainly for Phoebe, because you're doing a lot of the post-production, how those changes have kind of changed the way we tell stories.
Well, ironically, I actually think this is maybe more of a question for you guys as the DMs, because I may do the post-production, but I'm not really doing much of the storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I think it goes back and forth. It's kind of like what is possible in this moment, and then we design stories that are fit within that, and then vice versa. I mean, I think from my perspective, it has caused us to do a lot of top-down storytelling.
Mhm.
So I think it really has caused stories to happen in sort of a flat perspective, if that makes sense. There's not a lot of 3D stories where people like go underground and there's tunnels and stuff like that, because that needs to be represented visually some way. So I think that does actually affect the storytelling, and that there are a lot of stories where it's going from point A to point B in a contained space, so everything becomes very maze-like. That's something I think about a lot as I'm making designs, knowing that they need to read well on camera, but still have plenty of space for people to do things in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you've brought background stuff more than we used to do now that we have the technology for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, at least, that has changed is like how much we're integrating like new sound design into what we do. Like at the beginning, we just kind of like filmed and that was what it was, more or less. But now like we kind of make whole soundtracks for our campaigns and use that music like interspersedly like at moments where that makes sense. Phoebe's great at pulling like so many sound effects to like bring the viewer like directly into the story too. There's like more overlays happening too. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I think that is one thing. I feel like Linny does less of their own sound effects when it's something when they know that I'm just going to be putting them in after the fact.
Yeah, unless they're animal sounds.
Yeah, unless they're animal sounds. I so rarely get to actually pull animal sounds because usually Linny's just doing them themselves.
Yeah, also the music. I mean, they have a whole Discord chat that's just them sharing music back and forth between, and they have a whole process, and it is archaic, and not archaic, but like arcane.
Oh, it is.
It is arcane, and every time I just catch a chat, I'm like, wow, they're doing great. I don't know, this is wild. But I mean, it shows, I think, in just how cohesive the tone has become, I think, across things.
Yeah. It's been very fun to be a little bit more involved in that. Like I come from like, yeah, music theater, mostly a musical theater background. And so thinking about like how music can amplify moments and kind of change the mood of moments is really, really fun for me. And getting to be an active part in choosing that, even if we're not like composing our own stuff, is someday. That'd be so good. If you're a composer and want to do TTRPG stuff, hit us up, please. We would love to work with you. Yeah, but that's just been very fun to be a part of.
Yeah. All right. I think we're at 15 minutes.
I have I have one more question in this section. I do think it's one that I really want to touch on here. So a lot of like actual play shows do usually use like the same cast members campaign to campaign. We chose really early on in the process not to do that. We have a rotating cast of people. I think we brought like 29 people to our tables last year. So yeah, I guess like when we made that commitment, I think it was for one reason, but like why now do we still do that? How does it impact our storytelling?
I mean, just from the perspective of the casting process, I feel like so many players have different strengths, and like you kind of have a sense once you've played with them a certain amount of times, what kind of energy they're going to bring to the table. And some people's energies work really well for some stories, and maybe they wouldn't necessarily work as well in another story. So the casting becomes very deliberate rather than having a set group of people where it's like, okay, now you all have to come up with characters that are going to make sense for this thing. Instead, you have like, oh, you know who I bet would have a really great idea for a character for this type of world? This person. So it becomes a very deliberate process where we can kind of make sure that we get all the best people for specifically the story that we want to tell in that campaign.
Yeah, and then you're not asking anyone to compromise on the tone that they want to do. I think it's not that it's not that anyone we play with couldn't do any of the stories, but that not all people want to tell a specific like super funny story or super horrifying story. And so it's like we can make sure that everyone is 100% bought into the idea, and that just makes that story even better for tone. And then I think personally, because I work with people who are creating their backgrounds and their stories, when people come from different perspectives, and when I don't know what that perspective is necessarily going to be, because this is maybe not, I haven't played a bunch with this person, it tends to throw really great curveballs into my stories. And so they end up being much more interesting and broad, and with things like I never could have put in there.
Yeah. I think like it's opened up a lot of doors for collaboration too, in ways that have been super rewarding. Like a lot of the players that we do have back time and again, or even just, for single campaigns, are often creators of other TTRPG podcasts too, which is really, really fun because they already kind of know like what it takes to make a actual play like for like public viewing. But they are, as you said, like coming with their own perspectives, coming with their own backgrounds. And it means that we can kind of put these pieces in conversation in some interesting ways too. It's been very cool to like get to know people through having them at the table. We might not be able to as easily otherwise.
Yeah.
I'll segue into this quickly. So let's wrap it up and talk about what's next.
Just do it.
For TRT. We just completed our first Kickstarter earlier this year, wrapped up in February. Spent the last couple months kind of fulfilling on all those goals that we hit. And book is going to print in like a couple of weeks.
Getting a proof. And the proof is okay, then it goes to print.
So what lessons have we learned from that whole process?
Okay, we gotta be quick.
What was the best part? Like, what was your favorite part of the whole Kickstarter process?
My favorite part was when we made our goal. My second favorite part was actually holding the first proof in our hands that was like, oh, this is going to be as cool as we thought it was going to be. That like satisfaction of all of the work we had all put in and everyone else had put in, that we'd actually like fulfilled that promise. And the third best thing was the process kind of refined what we thought we were going to doing. I think mostly through the incredible art Emily was doing. And we ended up thinking it was going to be one thing when we started and getting even more cool at the end of that. And that process was cool to me.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like re-envisioning like what this game is, because it like was developed like while we were doing a bunch of other stuff too. But we hadn't really gotten a chance to like really sit with it and like edit it and go through and figure out like what was working. So yeah, it's been very cool to make it a better game like through this whole process, and expand it and work with Elliot on like some guest adventures, work with Yuri, our artist, on some like new art specifically for the book too. It's been very cool bringing this to life for sure. Very ready to like get this to print, get this shipped. We're very excited to hear what people have to say about it.
Yeah. If you're doing one of these 2 pieces of advice, it will take longer than you think it will.
Yes, it will.
And if you're doing a thing that involves writing, like a TTRPG, this is advice we got from our friend Richard before we started this, and I think it is still absolutely correct, which is write 90% of it before you even launch the Kickstarter, because you will end up writing more than 10%. But if you write, you just do 90% of it first. Please.
Same with your marketing. Schedule all of your marketing beforehand. Like just have it ready to go. Schedule all your updates, write them out, just so like when it actually comes time to do them, you only have tiny little edits to make, because most of your time on your Kickstarter will be spent clicking a refresh button on the Kickstarter every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, favorite part of me, shout out to Yuri again, because I think my favorite part definitely had to be when we got those first few pieces of art back from him, where it was just, you ever have an idea in your head of what something should be, and then it's exactly that.
But better?
But even better. It's just exactly what you wanted. Incredible. Do we have any advice for other people who might be thinking about starting their own actual play show or publishing games, or both?
Do you have a couple of really close friends who will work with you for many, many hours for no pay? If you don't have some of those, make them.
Honestly, yeah. so much of what we were able to do in those early days was just because we had friends that wanted to play with us and were willing to get on a train and come from Connecticut, or get on a plane and come from Atlanta and just sit at the table, just to sit at the table and play with us under very hot lights in the middle of the summer. And we're forever gonna have to be like very, very grateful to those people for that.
Yeah. I think my biggest advice is just follow the joy. Like, if you are making something that you love and you care about, and everyone at that table is bought in and they love and care about it too, that will come through. Like, that passion, that love, the time that you put into it will come through. Don't make something because you feel like it is the thing you have to make to fit into this world. Like, this is an expansive space. There's space for every type of AP. There's space for every type of fun little project that you are doing, anything you want published. Follow your joy. Like, this space is not a monolith, nor should it be. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to explore a lot of different stories, a lot of different ways of telling them. And that has made this so fun. It has made it like so rewarding, even when, things are tough or we're doing 8-hour admin days. Thank God we're not doing that anymore. We're making stuff that we love. And that's, I think, what comes through most of all.
Yeah, I think speaking of the 8-hour admin days, I think that would be the other piece of advice I would
Don't
give, which
do
is
that.
Yeah, well, not only don't do that, but it's so much more admin than you think it's going to be.
Yes.
You're like, oh, I'm gonna start a silly little actual play show. Maybe we'll stream on Twitch or something, whatever. And now you have a business meeting and LLC paperwork, and you're like, oh man, I did not think this through. But here we go. We're in it now.
Yeah, I think it's important that you define what you want success to be before you get started. And if that's just you have your friends and a silly little actual play show on Twitch and like the production's okay and you're just having a good time, that is so okay. If you're going to try to make money at it, it's a whole different set of things. And I think we're no longer in a space where it's easy to just do something and then it will inevitably make you money. There's a bunch of different avenues and a bunch of different paths, and like everything is possible. But knowing what you're willing to put in before you start, I think will help you keep that joy.
Absolutely. And get a project management system.
Get a project
Don't try to do it over Discord. It won't work.
And also, get yourself an Emily. Get yourself a project manager.
And if you have close friends and you work together constantly, designate a business chat and then a friend chat. So all of our business is on Discord, and then everything else is not on Discord. So there's never bleed.
So someone who's watching this is interested in working with us, Twice Rolled Tales. How would they reach out to us and maybe consider making that happen?
Oh my God, email us. Email us, DM us. We're on Instagram and all social medias as @twicerolledtales. Or you can email us at twicerolledtales@gmail.com. Yeah, just get in touch. We would love to, hear what you're working on, hear what you're thinking. We are, just three of us. There's no one else here. And, we always love meeting new people and, making new friends in the space.
I am once again asking for composers.
Please, we would love to work with you.
Especially people who live in New York.
Yeah. We have been doing a lot to try to create a local community here because so much of the actual play space is kind of localized on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And that's also been an incredibly gratifying part of the process.
There's so many cool people here.
And
come say hi.
Yeah. And getting them to do things in person too. It's incredible. It's so good.
There is no greater high than taking someone who's been doing podcasting, incredible podcasting, and being like, no, here's a paper prop. It's great.
So what is something we haven't mentioned yet that before we go, we really should?
Shit.
Where could they go to pre-order a copy of Tabletop Gone Mad.
Yeah, I don't know if pre-orders are going to be open by the time this airs. Unclear. But if you are looking for your own copy of Tabletop Gone Mad, we will be on Indie Press Revolution once the book is out and printed. So you can get a copy there. We are also selling copies at the 20-sided store in Brooklyn and currently at Millennium Games as well in Rochester, New York. There's also a couple more game stores that are going to stock us, which is very exciting. Yeah, you can also take a look on our website with more information there. But yeah, Indie Press Revolution, they're super great. You can definitely get a copy of Tabletop Gone Mad there, or you can even get the PDF copy on our website, toysrolltales.com.
We also have some fun merch and a couple of other actual play modules.
Yeah.
At least one, maybe more.
We should mention that.
Goat.
Oh, we should mention
Yavle
Yavle
Goat.
The goat, yes. If you've ever heard of Yavle Goat, this is the straw goat in Sweden that they attempt to build and then someone attempts to burn down once a year. And it's caused a bit of an arms race between the arsonist and the goat guards. You can play that as a D&D module. And we have an actual play of us and a little straw goat. It is just a wacky, wild, Home Alone style player versus player Christmas fun.
So a perfect holiday one shot.
Absolutely.
It truly is.
Is
that it?
I think that's it. If we want to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you want to hear anything that has been mentioned, there will be links below also to some of our incredible things you can buy, things you can watch. You're probably watching this on our YouTube channel. Give us a follow, a like. We're going to keep doing just some really cool things, and you should follow along.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yay!